Hi guys, and welcome back to National 5 Trigonometric Identities, looking at the 10 questions you were set to do. So let's have a look at question 4. Question 4, we are asked to show sine squared x divided by tan x is sine x cosine x. Okay, so as before, we are just looking for either sine squared plus cos squared, or a 1, or we're looking for a tan x. So here's our tan x. So just like in question 1, 2, and 3, we're going to replace tan x with sine x over cosine x. What I should have mentioned in the last video, and I didn't, so I'll mention it here. Always start with the left-hand side. The first time we see the answer, which is sine x cosine x, should be on the very last line of working. Okay, so we don't want to see sine squared over tan x equals sine x cosine x straight away. Okay, that's not the way to set them out. So we look for the tan x term, we replace it with sine x divided by cosine x. Again, we're dividing by a fraction there, so we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, or in other words, we're going to flip that fraction upside down, and instead of dividing by it, we're going to multiply by it. So I've got sine squared x multiplied by cosine x divided by sine x. Remember, if we want to, we can call this sine squared x over 1, then multiply the numerators together and the denominators together. But basically, we're going to get sine squared cosine x, which I've split up into sine x times cosine x, just because I know I'm going to have to cancel with the sine x term on the bottom here. So sine x divided by sine x here would just be 1, and I've still got sine x cosine x after that. Okay, and that's question 4 done. Let's have a look at number 5. Let's just zoom in a little bit. So here we need to show that 1 minus cosine squared a divided by cosine squared a equals tan squared a. So this is the first one where we've not been replacing a tan x with a sine x divided by a cosine x. But as I said before, if we see a 1, replace it with sine squared a plus cos squared a. Or if we've seen sine squared a plus cos squared a, we'd replace that with a 1. Okay, so the first thing we always do in these questions is to substitute. So even if you're not sure what's going on, these are normally 2 marks in the final exam when they come up. Just substitute in, that'll give you your first mark. So here I've got a 1, so that's sine squared a plus cos squared a. And then what else are we doing? We're subtracting cos squared a and then dividing it all by cos squared a. So what happens here is we've got cos squared a minus cos squared a, which is going to be 0. Anything minus itself is 0, which leaves us with sine squared a over cosine squared a. Now, as we know from question 1, 2, 3, and 4, sine x divided by cos x is 1, or sine a divided by cosine a is 1. So sine a, no, it's not 1. Sine a over cosine a is tan a. So, and sine x over cos x is tan x. So sine squared a divided by cosine squared a wouldn't be tan a, it would actually be tan squared a. If you're thinking, well, why is that? So we've basically got sine a times sine a, because that's what sine squared a means, divided by cos a times cos a, because that's what cos squared a means. So here's sine a over cos a, that's tan a. And we've got another sine a over cos a, so that's another tan a. So we've got tan a multiplied by tan a, which is tan squared, or tangent squared a. Okay, so again, we've got a 1 there, replace it with sine squared plus cos squared. Then tidy up the top. We're basically left with sine squared over cos squared, so sin over cos is tan. So we're going to have tan squared a for our final answer. Let's have a look at number 6, which is similar to question 5. So this time we've got 1 minus sine squared a divided by cos squared a, and we need to show that that is equal to 1. So again, here's our 1, replace it with sine squared plus cos squared. So here we've got sine squared minus sine squared, which would be 0, plus cos squared a, which just gives us cos squared a, all divided by cos squared a, and then anything divided by itself is 1. So there's our final answer of 1. Again, what's the main thing to do here? There's the 1, replace it with sine squared a plus cos squared a, because we know sine squared a plus cos squared a equals 1.